back in Sydney port again, Sydney, Australia. Just got here this morning. Alright, here it is, last day. We are gonna have breakfast, go and do some more tours around here in Sydney with Princess, and then they're gonna drop us off in airport. Then we're gonna fly out from there, going home to USA. We'll let you see it and let you know about it. Let's go. ไปกันเลย Well, let's take a look right here. Outport behind me. Check it out. There's some noise down there to do preparing. Look at that. Preparing. There's a bridge. And then here's downtown Sydney, guys. Wow, look at that. Beautiful, huh? Like some people getting already out, going home. Just leave our room last day after 30 days in the ship, catching elevator. Deck 16. Have some buffet breakfast. Let's go. So wet this morning from the rain. Here we are on the top deck. The ship. It is so wet here. Woo-hoo-wee. What are we waiting for? It's just like us, huh? Leaving. Oh, there's no chair here. Things all packed. Guys, we're back in Sydney, Australia. Here we have our last breakfast of the cruise. Here we go. Downtown Sydney. That's the famous bridge right there. We're in the bus now. You know, everybody in. And we're gonna do a Sydney city tour at the beach. They're gonna take us to the airport.
And 12:30, something like that. Now, it's not the most brilliant day to be in Sydney at the moment. As you can see, even the tops of the buildings are hidden, so we'll see what we can do to get some reasonable. And to be fair, I don't think there's any real way of making any more inroads into it being any more accurate than that, but it goes back a very, very, very long way. The Western history of Australia started in 1770 when Captain Cook, or Lieutenant Cook, as he was at the time, landed in Botany Bay, and Botany Bay is a body of water very close to the independence in the States. It meant that Britain couldn't send their convicts to the States anymore, and they were looking for a new place to. First fleet, 1,100 people on board, 750 convicts were on that ship. 25% of them were women, the rest were men. Boat about 2 or 3 days later, and he came up through the Tasman Sea, and he found the entrance to Port Jackson, as it was called then, Sydney Harbour as you would know it now, and he came through there, and this is one of the easiest locations to CGI out, so quite often they're actually filming all kinds of scenes around here for the movies that have been filmed in other parts of Sydney. So the harbour bridge was planned in the early 1900s. The construction of it took 9 years, between 1923 and 1932, so it was eventually opened in 1932. Over on the far side of the bridge there, you might just be able to see what looks like a fun park, and indeed it is a fun park. It's called Luna Park. That was actually constructed in the early 30s, just after the bridge was completed. The reason for that was that that whole area was the fabrication yard for the harbour bridge. 80% of the steel for the bridge, 53,000 tonnes, came from Britain, was shipped out from Britain, from Dorman Long, and the other 20% was made and constructed here. There's nearly six, instead of kind of forcing it, which they could have done. They did the only decent Aussie thing that you can do. I left my car here a couple of weeks ago in the middle of this roundabout, whether you can see what happened to it. Now, one of the more interesting facts about that is that that car actually cost $7,800 from a Parramatta road, which is a very famous road in Sydney for second-hand car salesmen. It was actually in the morning, you knew you were going to go hungry that day. It's as simple as that. And I have to say, because of that, we've still got some marvellous buildings around here and a lot of history. At the moment, the building on the right-hand side is a kind of a cigar-shaped building. That's the new Crown Casino. Greenery, one of the washing areas, or at least I think that's what they meant, but they had problems with. One of the first chapels that was built by convict labour. It's the one on the right-hand side here. Garrison Church. Very regular. And most of the housing here was for the workers of the port. Later on in the trip, I believe, because there wasn't a harbour bridge, so this was very much the centre of activity. Around about 27,000 of those were women. So you can see your ship across the other side of the harbour there, and I'm sure you didn't go amiss by noticing where the other buildings that have been knocked down in the effort to extend and rebuild and refurbish Sydney. So there's parts of a bridge from Piermont, for example, and it was a rather grand building which cost the governor his job at that stage. This was so good, there would still be. Here's Matthew Flinders, he's on the statue there. The State Library, it's only just come back from being behind a whole load of scaffolding. We weren't quite sure whether that was for refurbishment or they've just gone through a state election, but indeed, that was in many ways the first currency. There was 250,000 gallons of rum was produced and was sold to raise funds to build the hospital. And the rum hospital, or the mint as it's now known, is this building on the right, on the left here. So back from 1816. You may think that you've seen that is an area called Hyde Park. Yes, Hyde Park. You've heard it here. You've also heard of it in London. Racing track. That's what it started as. Start with some kind of sport and then kind of change it around. And that was very much the start point for us. It was a horse racing track, and nowadays it is obviously a park with memorial features at the very southern end there. 2000. But unlike the Barcelona Cathedral, which has got a plan for construction for 400 or 500 years, this was basically finished about 20 years later. But they never finished it with the final spires, because if you did, you had to pay building tax. But it was your stairs, your chair, whatever it was, stand on a tree root and lecture or talk to people, anybody willing to listen to you. This was where you came to. Underneath here is a very last one on the circular pillars. Just off to the right of where I did of them in there, and believe me, you don't want to be underneath the trees when they start to fly. They are cute, to be fair, and an awful lot of people get an awful lot of enjoyment from the end of the point here.
Beautiful downtown Sydney there, guys. Alright, this is our first stop with the CD tours here in with the Princess.
To get
Cool place, guys. Alright, this is our last visit here. Sydney, Australia. Behind it. That's Opera House. Got a lot of visitors here. Very beautiful. Cloudy morning, but it's nice. Beautiful park, beautiful trees. The Opera House over there. Nice. Beautiful tree. Right. Maybe heading back to our bus. This is our stop, our first stop for photo shooting here in Sydney with the tours.
The one that I'm going to stop at just up here has got some absolutely fantastic examples of buttressing. I think there's one or two of you that live in Queensland. You'll see all of these in the tropical forests up there as well. The reason these trees have got buttressing is two reasons. One is that the sandy soils, so they're not the strongest soils to maintain their verticality. And as you can see by the size of some of these buttressing, bear in mind these are probably almost certainly are some really quite bizarre examples of what can happen with nature protecting its and the wind speeds can be very very gusty. We get something called a southerly change, which is literally just a change of wind direction suddenly, and it happened last night. It wasn't too vicious, the one last night, but you get the temperatures that have been around the 40s. They suddenly drop 20 degrees in about 2 hours. We do like to celebrate successes and also support sports, and as you might guess, because of our climate here, almost that's also true throughout Australia, we get an awful lot of sports facilities, and we invest quite substantially in all the kinds of sports that you would guess, both swimming and nowadays soccer and ball sports. But last year, and it's a massive extension, particularly focusing on Aboriginal art. Just over on the right hand side again is the other side of the domain. At this time of the year it's got a big stage put on it, primarily because for the next main television networks in Sydney, 7 and 9 will do candlelight carol services, and then there'll also be opera and orchestra in the park and things like that. So you can see there's a big area out there now. The stage has been set and that won't be removed until... Now I mentioned on the way in that this was an area that sometimes is called Speaker's Corner. One of the ways in which we know that is that just on the left hand side, just past these next few trees, is a statue to Robbie Burns. He's coming up to an important part of the old Lang Syne song. That's his. So Australia's actually got more Robbie Burns statues than any other country outside the United Kingdom. So we have 9 of them dotted around in the various places. The southern part of Hyde Park, it's actually cut in two by a street that we'll get to and turn left. It's Park Street. The southern part of the park has really been handed across.
Oh yeah.
When we get a little bit further along, just the other side of this van that's parked on the left hand side, you may be able to just kind of peer down through the windows there. You may well just see the tops of the swimming pool down underneath there as well.
Oh, okay.
I think that's one of those trust me areas, that one, to be fair.
Yeah, I see it.
Exhibition on. The rest of the museum is, as I mentioned earlier, is free of charge to wander around. Ramesses bought those 168,000 convicts. Now, don't think that that's the only numbers. The whole area is called the Eastern Suburbs, and as I made mention, is very much where the history of Sydney began. Before the bridge opened in 1932, the area joke, when you look at it, it's a very, very large site. It's been up there and is now heritage listed, actually, believe it or not. And it's been a very long held part of the King's Cross area. This area became famous, if you like, or infamous, because of the port down at Garden Island there. The naval soldiers used to come district, as you probably know.
Our group tour here. Second stop with our excursion with Princess. It's nice harbor here. Here we are. Get back into the bus. Go to the next stop.
districts are still under cloud. That's quite incredible for this time of the day.
Yeah.
Now, King Koppel, private girls. I had a guide on here whose daughter was the right age. Location. Spent 2 or 3 hours looking around, talking to some of the prospective teachers, and the head teacher came up. There's a lot of history in that building, and I think amongst us is one lady who actually worked there for a week back a few years ago. There you go. Now the other thing you'll see along this road, notice this is one of the higher priced suburbs, to say the least, in Sydney. You won't see too many today, but you will see remnants of boats being parked along here. And you'll think, well, hang on, this is the front gardens. They've got kind of underground, like the building on the right hand side there, garages which are underneath there. And the local authority have an eclectic mix of housing down here. Everything from the block ahead of us, which is a kind of a 1950s tenement, to some really absolutely top class modern materials, fantastic designs. So by all means, kind of take note of. As I mentioned, the ferry system joins all of the locations in the harbour up. Within the harbour, there's around about between 100 and 120 different bays. 22nd century or whatever, how many bays there were. And that's just simply a case of how you count them, whether you count the smallest possible unit of a bay or whether you count some of them as aggregate. But there's an awful lot of different locations there. Dedicated solely to, as you can see, this street kind of winds down here. I hope you agree there's been some incredible properties on the left and right. The values of most of these would be somewhere between 15 and 25 million. Even a unit in the block to the right hand side there, say a one-bed unit, would be. It's one of the oldest chapels in Sydney on the left hand side there. Very often used for weddings and things. In fact, it's a Sunday now, so it won't be weddings. Now I'm going to come to a stop, hopefully in a good place just up here. Sometimes it's a bit popular, so I have to park not just quite where I want to, but let's just see where I get to. New Bay. I think he probably felt that he completed the task that he was set out to achieve. And
We are on our third stop here. Go check out the view at the cliff here in Sydney. They said this is very interesting place, and it's deep. Dawn Vichy Grove. Right here. It's nice like a park here. Wow. Captain Cook. This is the place that he came by before. It's a unique cliff. It's a walkway right there. He's mad. Deep cliff here in Sydney, Australia, guys. Oh, look at the cliff. Oh, that's a cool cliff. Hey, quiet. Yeah.
The headlands, the gap area, well this is it. Down in the rocks was a receiving station, it was the military command, and the signal station up here would give pre-advance notice to perished on the reef and the rocks out there, and the answer is yes, there is. It's just 1814, 1816.
1816.
And was designed by an architect called Francis Greenway. Now that's not actually the first lighthouse. The first attempt at it unfortunately used some sandstone which was a little too... I don't often talk about cemeteries, but this cemetery here has got an awful lot of history. In fact, there's a massive project going on buried in there because it's felt that a number of important individuals are probably buried there and we don't know about it. I want to draw your attention though to something else. The building on the right hand side is a almost brand new 6-star facility. Any idea what it is? What it might be? 6 stars.
No.
Hotel?
Yeah.
Somebody's already guessed it. Aged care. It's an aged care facility.
In future.
One's no different. You may have heard of the White Cliffs of Dover, a famous landmark between France and England in the English Channel there. If you'd had one or two too many and you were out at sea and you kind of closed your... I think the cliff face here might just be a little lighter enough to say that it was the White Cliffs of Dover. And it's called Dover Heights for that very reason. Feel a bit. As you can probably see by some of the kind of glimpses through the buildings, they've got fantastic views. Now increasingly onto the right hand, in fact just up here another 200 metres or so, in fact 100 metres is the start of a reservoir. You can kind of get that feeling because it's a flat top and there's steps and things that are going up it. The road, fantastic place to watch the fireworks, and gradually as you look over the top here you'll work out why, because it's got an enormously panoramic view all the way down through the harbour, all the way to the harbour bridge. The end of the street here is I think probably one of the most futuristic buildings that's around in the area. There's only 2 of them in Australia. There's one here, the other one's in Queensland. Now it has no curtains in it, completely glass fronted.
Right here.
For the very first time the other day I came around here and the curtains were drawn. Although those ones on the right hand side is definitely not a switch, that's a proper set of blinds. But the glass there is convertible by literally just changing the electrical current in it. As you can see, you probably get an idea from the right hand side of the road more of the history of the buildings. Some of them have been done up very nicely. To have done is to increase the story, it's increase the height so you get a view of at least the harbour. The money shot in Sydney is to have a harbour design, same layout, same footprint,
Oh, they want to high
similar kinds of qualities inside, and you'll find that the one that's got the bridge view is 15% dearer than the one that hasn't.
15%. Renovation. Vino.
Now, just in front of it, so at least you would have done if that state bus hadn't timed its arrival perfectly. So sorry about that. The nippers are the youngsters who come along and learn all about watercraft, water safety, how to be a surf lifesaver, how to surf, and not so good for the more professional surfers amongst the population. Bondi Beach is great and famous for several reasons. I think principally because it's the city beach, it's the beach that's closest to the centre. It's also got one or two things that's, the matter is that all three of them were first. But the truth of the matter is that this is just one of the many locations that would have had lifesavers. Now, lifesavers jobs are very hard, and back in the 60s the local authority made it even harder. They added some rules to being on the beach that meant they had to go and recruit a whole load of male, which they ended up. So if you're going to put a rule like that in place, you have to have somebody to inform. Oh, how life has changed, eh? God, damn it. Alright, now I'm going to draw up just against this.
Alright guys, this is our last stop. After this, they're gonna drop us off at the airport by the bus, by the Princess excursion. So it's for Bondi Beach. Beautiful. Let's take a look. A lot of people here, guys. Bondi or Bondi? Bondi Beach. Alright guys, we're standing here nice and chill, Bondi Beach. Coffee shop, shops. Heading back to our bus. Couple, some bus over there. Look at this, this is all the tours. Whole bus. And this is the one, my bus. They're gonna take us to an airport right now and heading home.
So I just kept adding things on. So I added New Zealand on, and I added Bali. If it wasn't for the
Part of the problem with the kind of netting is that there's a lot of bycatch kind of thing. Now there's actually 3 life-saving clubs here on the left-hand side. Now, what they used to do, they went over a tram system that linked this whole area right the way up into the central part of Sydney. Back in the 1950s, in keeping with tram systems just about everywhere in the world, a lot of them were wiped out. They were taken away. Unfortunately, they were never to be put back again down to Bondi. Going forward, there's nothing more than 6 stories here. And as such, it's an area which attracts a very large amount of turnover. Now over to the left-hand side, there's a little swimming pool. You'll see that it's actually saltwater fed. Literally, the waves will crash over it.
Yeah.
That's called the Icebergs Life-Saving Club. Now, you kind of don't think necessarily that icebergs and Bondi go together, and strictly they don't. But that's the name of it anyway. The 6 coldest weekends during the winter. Now, I don't want any of you thinking that this is a particular hardship, okay, because in all honesty the water is still relatively, well, it's not warm, it's kind of around 18 centigrade, so it's still quite cold. But what the icebergs do is, in order to make it true to their principles, they actually also throw in ice blocks as well to keep the water temperature down to around 15. So it gives you a completely different view of Bondi Beach as well. Beautiful. Because I think Noah's, yes, it's called Noah's. This one on the right hand side has fallen into disrepair over the years. I think it's sold recently and is like lots of independent shops. In fact, it's something which Sydney-siders are renowned for. They like their big brands. Our 2 supermarkets, for example, are Woolworths and Coles. The UK, I know, had a kind of a penny and dime store, which was Woolworths. To be welcome in areas like this, they tend to be outside these areas, and despite the fact that most of those have produced smaller format stores, they're not welcome. Now, he's a doctor of fruitology. Oh, he's a fruitologist. He's Sydney's only fruitologist, and he literally did go and get a doctorate into his goods and services are fantastic. You can very easily tell how the economy is doing in Sydney by how many shops that basically provide food in one form or another. So the vast majority of boomerangs was what can only be described as a branch with a root on the bottom of it. And the reason that it needs to be that heavy is that it's likely to try and stun a kangaroo or a wallaby, or something that's moving and moving fairly quickly. Used for is probably in groups of 3, 4 or 5, and that was how they would be netting smaller amounts of protein, if you like, with food. So it's one of those myths that has perpetrated itself in some of Western society. We also hear that our Aboriginal cousins are that you're going to be a lot more nomadic with your tribe. Tribes in Australia, they all have different languages. There's not one single language which is written down. So despite the fact that we have all, what they mean by that is shorthand. It's a Westerner's view of the word that was said, a verbal word that was said between himself or herself and the Aboriginal person. Now, if you just take, and I'll use the UK as an example, if you take the different accents that exist between Newcastle, Birmingham and London, then whoever a particular word said in a particular way, all three of them are going to spell it in a completely different sense as well. Inside is the beginnings of an area called Centennial Park, created in 1888 to mark an enormous area of leisure, all kinds of leisure out there. There's stables and horse riding tracks, there's walking tracks, there's just about every sport. We'll be going past a small part of it both now and when we reach the main road down further. I was just telling you about some other information. It was one of the first shopping centres that, the left is a sports and entertainment complex. By the way, there's a fly that's bothering me, so there's a bounty on that one. Anybody gets in, get Rugby League, Sydney Roosters Rugby League and Rugby Union pitch, the Allianz Stadium that was rebuilt, and we also have concerts there. Robbie Williams was out there earlier on a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Big stadium.
And then further over is a big entertainment complex as well. So there's a lot of studios. We've put a lot of money in the last kind of 10 years into international film production, and Sydney and a number of other locations around Australia. This one's called Anzac Parade, that goes off to the left hand side there. Anzac stands for Australian New Zealand Army Corps. There have been many occasions when the two countries have joined. It's got an Australian digger. That's what the soldiers of the day were called. His cap has got a tilt on it so that he can actually pop his rifle vertical without knocking his hat off. And then on the other side, the difference between a living memorial and obviously one that's stood there, which have services out and go and reflect on, is that they're in use, the geography and geology of that area. I know there's one there down there, it's called the Bird Bridge, and John Bird with a lot of support for the entire area as well, which I'm trying to get hold of a copy of, which sets out where the likely boundaries for some. To some extent that's true. Certainly the more successful nations the bigger they got and the wider they span. We're the only nation on the world that eats the animals that are on their emblem. Yes, like staghorn or something like that. And that's also true. Now, up on the back of a $10 note. Between 1966, when the currency in Australia was decimalised, and 1992, a convicted fraudster
close to the airport, Sydney. Finally here, Sydney Terminal 1 International. So a lot of us gonna be flying back home. Now we are getting our stuff. A lot of us here. All the international, we fly out of here.
Let's have a seat over here and drink our water and maybe eat some chips. Yeah. You wanna sit down here?
Sydney Airport. Latte coffee milkshake. How you doing? Looking good. Subway in Sydney Airport. This is all the customer here waiting for flights. Boy, guys, we're still here in the Sydney International Terminal. Right now it's about 3:45. Our flight not until 8:30. I'm gonna find out and see what time can we check in. That's big money exchange right there. Right, finally they tell us we can check in. It's about 3:30 right now. We're gonna do it. Our flight not until 8:30. We're gonna do right now. Finally. Hey, late guys. I meet these beautiful ladies here. They're from Colombia. Hi, ladies. You guys cruising with the what's the name of the ship? All in America. Yeah, we met them here at the airport. What a wonderful. Thank you, ladies. Nice meeting you. What was it?
Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman, no time to talk. The music loud, the women walk, my being dangerous since I was born. I never tolerate, it's okay.
Beautiful tree, guys. Alright, we are inside Sydney Airport.
They even have high-end.
Yeah, and look at all the shopping mall here. You like shopping, guy? High ends. This is all high end store here in Sydney, Australia. Airport. Currency exchange. Look like mall. Beautiful. It's going down there. Transit desk. Currency exchange here.
They have all that place.
I thought that is like original in Lima. No, Lima, Peru. What is he doing here?
But they do ships in. That's
Oh, yeah. I thought that was a fake one. I mean, I thought that was a real one. Around here. Alright guys, right now it's about 5:15. We're not gonna board until 7:45. Leaving from Sydney to Honolulu. So just kick back, relax right here, right now. It looks like our airplanes here. Spirit of Australia. What does? Finally, schedule change 1 hour forward. Instead of 7:30, now it's 8. No, 8:30. Now it's 9:30. Long line. Alright, we ready? Picking up Sydney, Honolulu. Here we go. 9:30 p.m. 1 hour delay. Supposed to be 8:30, but 9:30. It's okay. Got long delay in Honolulu. Let's go.
Very important part of the flight through to Honolulu tonight is the safety demonstration by the crew. If we could just have your undivided attention for a few minutes.
Tight during takeoff, landing, and whenever the seatbelt sign is on. That includes infants and children. While seated at other times, we rest.
Welcome to the 1960s, when Qantas brought the world closer to the number of rows between you and that exit. Lights will guide you to your exit. Your crew members are pointing them out.
Obrigado. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Honolulu, where the time is 9:46 a.m. still on Sunday.